not really brief, and give you specific instructions regarding the exam. This video is just going to go through the questions that I chose, which are on your exam. However, the formats vary. So again, if you remember, like I said, that the questions I originally gave to you in the form of multiple choice as Cohen presents them to me. However, on your final exam, some of them have been transferred into true or false. Some of them have been transferred to fill in the blank. Some of them have been transferred to short answer, and there's one specific essay style. I will get into a little bit specifics when I reach the essay style question of how I expect you to answer it. Let's just go forth. All right. Final exam review. So from all the questions that I chose that I chose to pull the questions from, these are the topics that you must be familiar with. So, social capital, functionalist theories, data on child abuse and neglect cases, personal family, exchange theory, sexual double standard, work-family conflict, endogamy, cohabitation, gender division of labor, institutional arena plus the three arenas plus the three themes of the book. How do they overlap and how do they interact? I think you're getting a feel off that what your essay question is going to be. Mate selection and the three ways that it influences society. Gender socialization, gender versus sex, compulsory heterosexuality, feminist theories regarding family, dissonant acculturation. So, like I said, there are 16 questions on your final exam and 2 extra credits. 2 that are extra credits are listed here as well. Again, I do not want you guys to go crazy trying to, for example, look for every single past piece of data on child abuse and neglect cases. If you remember, I already gave you questions that relate to all those theories in previous review PowerPoints. Those are the questions you will be focusing on, and those are the questions I will be reviewing with you right now. Again, I do not suggest this PowerPoint will not be available for you. This list is available for you on your previous lecture's PowerPoint, but all these questions will not be available for you because I might as well give you your final exam now. This video will be available, and if you choose to leave it open and go back and try to use it during the exam, that is your choice, but you are risking losing time and closing out your exam. So do whatever you need to do at your own preparation, and also note that the PowerPoint slides will not be available on May 20th. So all your slides will not be available. Okay, let's go. All right, so this is the previous list of rules and stuff that I basically went over in the last video. I will not go over them right now, but it is here for your review, so feel free to pause and reread it. Okay, question 1 as a review. Again, this is on previous PowerPoints that we went over questions for. Octavia's parents are professionals, as are her parents, siblings, and most of her friends. They are able to draw on their social networks to help Octavia achieve her goals. This is an example of... I'll give you guys about 5 seconds to kind of quiz yourself. Bourdieu's social capital. So again, is this question in this exact format on your final? Possibly. Do I have it worded as this is an example of conflict theory, true or false? Maybe. Do I have it worded as fill in the blank? Maybe. So that's what I mean. You know what I mean? So as long as you know this answer, no matter what format it's in, you'll be able to answer it. So I encourage you to quiz yourself now. And if you get everything right and able to do it in 2 hours, then you most likely getting 100. All right. So again, the answer is A, social capital. Octavia has social capital because she has access to a network of people who have connections and resources that can help her make connections. All right. Review chapter 4. Functionalist theories argue that since social inequality exists in all societies, it must be eliminated, is harmful, serves an essential purpose, or prevents exploitation. It's C, serves an essential purpose. So if you remember, this is just another way basically to say consensus perspective, right? So we have consensus and conflict are the individuals, you know, similar to what we just went over for chapter 13 of like, drawing a blank, of the critical view of the family, feminist, etc. So this is the opposite of that, right? A consensus perspective that inequality is necessary, right? In order for people to have some kind of incentive to move up, you know, women should remain in the house, in the kitchen, and men should be, you know, the bread makers, etc. So that is another, functionalist theories is another way to say conflict. Oh my God, I'm sorry. Functionalist theory is another way to say consensus perspective, right? So you equate those two. Because it exists in all the societies to varying degrees, functionalists argue that social inequality is necessary. They argue that unequal rewards provide incentives for people to get the best jobs they can, and may include acquiring the education and training to do difficult work. Inequality is beneficial and necessary for society to function well. Moving on to the next question. This is from chapter 12. Data on child abuse and neglect cases show that in the majority of cases, the perpetrator is B, the victim's mother. The most common perpetrator relationship to the victim cited in child abuse and neglect cases is that of the child's mother. The child's father is the second most common. This partly reflects the likelihood that children will spend more time with their mothers, and single-parent families are likely to be headed by mothers. Together, mothers and fathers account for 80% of child abuse and neglect cases. Moving on to review something from chapter 1. Rosa thinks of her mother's best friend Maria as her aunt, and Maria treats Rosa as her niece. According to your textbook, Rosa and Maria could be labeled on B, personal family. I feel like that is an easy one. Broad definition of family, which allows individuals to determine who they include in their definition of family. This may be a broader definition than the government uses, i.e. 2 or more people related by birth, marriage, or adoption. Which family is that? Well, I have you guys. 2 or more people related by birth, marriage, adoption, that will be considered your legal family. So this is your personal family. All right. Which theory sees people as individuals entering into mutual relationships to maximize their own gains? A, exchange theory. I don't have one of those little explanations like I do for the other questions. But yeah, so exchange theory, you guys remember, this was the theory that went over in chapter 1, which basically didn't really fall under a consensus or conflict perspective of the family. It basically viewed individuals entering into relationships because of some kind of cost-benefit analysis, and when one person doesn't no longer fulfill that, benefit, or is no longer fulfilling their role, then that is when the other will choose to end the relationship, right? So your relationship is somewhat like a contract of responsibility, so forth, right? Maximizing their own gain. So that is where exchange theory fell under. Okay, the sexual double standard. A lot of you guys wrote about this for your paper number 3. What is the sexual double standard? I'll have you guys go through it, see if you're able to answer. All right, if you said A, putting stricter controls on women's sexual behavior than on men's, then you are correct. I also just want to apologize for this kind of being the font all over the place. This is like me really quickly doing this, and then I just drew a blank, like throwing it on the slide to do this, but it's not my most perfect slide, but it's just for you guys to review. All right, so review chapter 6, putting stricter controls on women's sexual behavior on men's. Now, would this question be in a fill in the blank? Will it be a multiple choice? Will it be a short answer? I don't know. Well, I do know, but you don't know. Here's a little bit of a further explanation. In our society, women are often assumed to be more passive and sexually inhibited, whereas men are often assumed to be more oriented towards performance and taking pride in having many sexual partners. These assumptions create a moral standard that views women who pursue sex for pleasure as morally corrupt. There are more legal controls on women's sexuality, as well as the pressures of social norms to conform to a passive and monogamous sexuality. This attitude is changing slowly. So I just want to also emphasize that for your papers, I took away people's points for people who didn't include information like this from Cohen. And I'm going to do the same for paper 4, and I'm going to be stricter on it because I'm sick of repeating myself and not being listened to. Right? You can't just define sexual... This class is over, so like whatever, shut up, get on with the point. But I just want to say, you can't just define sexual double standard and then Google it and then give me a bunch of stuff for other things, right? Something like this that's from Cohen is what I'm like looking for. And for the final exam, for your essay specifically, I want specific, stuff from Cohen. All right, let's keep going. All right, chapter 11 review. A blank occurs when the time demand, strains, or obligation of work or family roles make it difficult for people to fulfill their obligations in either role. Let's look at the answers. All right, the answer is B, work-family conflict. The problem of work-family conflict occurs when the time, demand, strains, or obligations of work, all right, so what I just read, many of the work-related problems families experience today arise from work-family conflict. All right, so we just had this on your quiz. I think what I had you guys do was give me an example. Although some of you guys gave me the definition, I still gave you like partial credit, but just indicate and note for yourself now that when I say I want an example of something, I want an example of something. When I say I want a definition of something, I want the definition. And when I say define and give me an example, I want both. Okay? So just remember that. All right, so I'll repeat again. If I want you to define something, you would define it like a definition like this from Cohen. When I say give me an example of this would be, if you want to think of something right now in yourself, let me give you a few seconds. Jot it down. Look at my cat and my feet while you're doing it. All right. Yeah, so let's say an example is, I'm like giving you all this time, now I'm thinking about myself. All right, so like my personal life, me not being able to think right now because my daughter is outside crying that I am not outside playing with her. So right now I am not fulfilling my role as the mom because I am over here being Professor Rodriguez. All right, so that's a work-family conflict. Time, strains, obligations. Stop it. My cat just bit my feet. All right. I'm sorry, it's like kind of unprofessional. All right, so one major illustration of the modern changes seen in marriage patterns is that blank has now become an expected stage in relationships for most couples. All right, so is it A, endogamy, B, cohabitation, C, religious intermarriage, or D, annulment? Okay, sorry again, excuse me, I'm in my bedroom. Okay, then you guys think. All right. Cohabitation. In recent decades, cohabitation, defined as living together as a sexual romantic couple without being married, has rapidly become an expected stage in relationships for most couples. By changing the pathway to marriage, cohabitation has fundamentally changed the experience of marriage. All right, so although cohabitation was really specifically addressed in chapter 8, right, it's discussed throughout the whole chapter. So the main thing, I know, like if you look at the other questions, you can maybe think like maybe annulment, right? Because more people are getting, marriages aren't being successful. However, annulment wasn't an answer to that. I feel like that's the only thing that might get confused with some of you guys. Endogamy, that's not a stage, right? Endogamy is when you marry somebody within your own, a distinct group. So whether it's race or class, and then religious intermarriage, the same thing, but with religion. So I mean, cohabitation, hello. Only one left. All right. Review from something from chapter 1. The granting of marriage licenses is an example of which institutional arenas interacting. Let you guys think. Let you guys think. State and family. Yes. Legal marriage as a family form is regulated by the state. The government determines who's able to marry. I don't know why. I feel like people are still having a hard time grasping. Like I said, I will give you the option for a Zoom meeting. You are going to have to distinctly be able to explain these arenas and how they interact with each other. No doubt about it. So, whatever you have issues with as you're studying this weekend, if you guys want me to leave this open for a Zoom meeting on Monday, I am happy to do. So, I feel like I'm speaking like a TV show host. All right. So state and family, right? So state is the government, and New York State, you're married in New York. So we know what marriage is. All right. Review chapter 8. Which of the following is an example of endogamy? We just went through this, but let's go over it again. I'll let you guys read the answers. All right, C, a woman who marries someone in her racial group. All right, so again, I gave you guys, two versions of this question. Doesn't mean that both questions worded in the way of this is going to be on the test. No, it just means that endogamy is going to be on your exam. If you're able to answer the questions, then you know what it is, then you are fine. It could be in the format of, again, fill in the blank. It could be in the format of true or false. Endogamy refers to marriage and reproduction within a distinct group. If someone marries someone within their racial group, this is an example of endogamy. The overall allocation of work between men and women in society is referred to as the second shift, the gender division of labor, occupational gender segregation, or the system of care. Let you guys think. If you need some more time, I would, quiz yourselves. See how much studying you really need to do. Some of you might surprise yourselves and be like, wow, I know all this. B, the gender division of labor. The gender division of labor refers to the overall allocation of work between men and women in society, which includes occupational gender segregation, as well as the way men and women divide the housework and care work. So you remember I said that the occupational gender segregation might be confused with the overall allocation of work being the gender division of labor, but the gender division of labor includes the occupational gender segregation, right? So just think of the gender division of labor as this larger umbrella, and within that umbrella, occupational gender segregation falls under that, which is when men and women are divided. They're assigned specific roles on what to do based on their gender, right? So it's like, oh, I'm the mom, so I gotta wash dishes, and I'm the dad, I'm doing the yard work, which I have him doing right now. But, right, so that falls under the gender division of labor. So, if there's a way that you want to try to remember this, or, whatever it is that you're going to do, right, the overall allocation of work and the gender division of labor is the umbrella, right? So which is overall. That's one way that would tell my students who are taking the test in class and need something to remember it. All right, review something from chapter 5. Max and Claire have a son and daughter. Their son is expected to mow the lawn and wash the cars. Their daughter is expected to cook the meals and vacuum. This is an example of... Why did I not do this for every single question? Lost opportunity. This is an example of gender socialization. Gender socialization, wow, is a complex process that includes learning to adapt to the way that gender is organized in a particular culture. This is not as simple as learning a particular gender role, but rather requires developing the capacity to act and react to the actions and expectations of others. All right? So yeah, we went over this a few times. We went over socialization also in the parenting chapter. The thing I want you to be able to do without saying how this is going to be worded is just be able to give, be able to give examples of what gender socialization is and how it is, how specifically when it comes to the gender socialization. So I know we learned about the parenting, but it's going to be more specific to the gender socialization. But, you have to be able to define it and give examples. Review question 9. What contributed to the decline of courtship in the process of mate selection? Decreasing exposure to urban life okay, you guys read it. Oh wow, I'm the answer, I messed it up. All right, my fault. The answer is highlighted. I'm like, here, go figure it out. All right, so yeah, it's increasing freedom for young adults, and as the ideal of marriage shifted, it went to be young adults became more independent. Sorry, I'm like getting impatient as I'm holding the phone up. Yeah, so if you remember, I mean, how the way this is questioned, I just want you to, just so you could remember how it, what is the focus on when it comes to mate selection, because it's going to be brought up again. It's just be able to identify what mate selection is and how it largely affects society. So you'll see that coming up in a question, and this kind of reflects that, right? So how the idea of what marriage was supposed to be has shifted, and that, as we discussed in other situations such as cohabitation, dating, etc. This is an example of that. So this is from, it doesn't say which chapter it's from, but the chapter that was, I think, Love and Relationships. All right, review from chapter 5. When individuals internalize elements of the social structure and make those elements part of their personalities, they have experienced the results of socialization. Yes, segregation and discrimination is debatable, right? Right, that can form your personalities in different ways. But this is about internalizing elements of the social structure. So that's specifically what we've discussed. And again, I am having you guys, I'm expecting you guys to understand this in terms of gender, which I already went over to you guys. So it's just another thing that I threw in there for you to just further have another way of defining it. So this is from chapter 5. If I'm going too fast, I really want you guys to soak this in and try to, really test yourself. Just pause, and sorry if I'm like distracting. All right. Okay, here this is when people learn the norms and expectations of a particular society and then make decisions and act based on them, they have been socialized into the culture. People may not always follow the rules, but they tend to know what the rules are. This learning happens through ongoing social interaction, first with family and then with schools, peers, media, religion, and a wider culture. If you recall, right, the whole thing with social scripts, right? So you're socialized to do certain things. It's kind of like what we're going through now with COVID. And then the minute things become not like that, it could cause like anxiety and stress, right? You don't know, right? So like now when people, like we don't hold the doors for people anymore, right? We can't be giving each other handshakes, right? So we've been socialized, that's the norm. So just like kind of things like that, right? The social script about how things are expected to go. And the family falls in that like first, let's say, school of learning, right? And then comes all these other things that come after the fact. We didn't really get into that kind of hierarchy in class, but that's what they mean by this, right? So then you learn from your parents initially, and then you learn from school, then the media and so forth about what's considered normal. For as long as she can remember, Nile has liked to play with dolls, whereas her brother prefers trucks and tools. These were toys given to them by their parents. This is an example of yes, another gender socialization question. All right? I don't think I have to explain it anymore. I'll just leave this explanation here for you guys to read on your own. Okay. What is the relationship between the arguments made in chapter 5, gender, and chapter 6, sexuality? So like I told you guys, some of your discussion board posts will be, sorry, I just got an alert, will be on the final. This is one of them. Your discussion board posts and the answers will not be available on May 20th. So just watch out for that. So yeah, so what is the relationship between chapter 5 and chapter 6. So there's specific arguments made in each. A lot of you kind of hit the mark with this discussion board. It wasn't just defining the two and being like gender is different from sexuality because of this, but the specific arguments that Cohen made is very particular. But for the sake of the final, you're not gonna have to like worry about that. You do have to be able, so you are just gonna have to know the definition. So, you know, again, I'm pulling this out of the discussion board post because this is where you can kind of get those answers, you know, if you want to go back and read your answer, how you scored. But, you know, and I put the page numbers. So, right, so sex is one biological's category, male or female based on anatomy, and then gender, the social realization of that biological sex, right? So you're born with certain body parts, some people are, and then your gender is a social reality, right? So something what society has assigned to, right, the male parts and the female parts. And then what I put here was where the relationship between the arguments were made. This is like my internal note to myself that when I'm grading your papers, where the right answer is, and this is where the right answer for your discussion board was at, specifically regarding how they're subject to change and so forth. But you don't have to really worry about that. You just guys have to worry about the definition. So I'll just leave this here. All right, compulsory heterosexuality is what? The assumption that everyone is straight and the pressure to conform to this norm. Okay? So you may have to, you know, answer this in multiple choice, give an example of it, right? So what is the examples that were given in this chapter, if you guys remember? Okay. Because heterosexuality is assumed to be the norm, many laws, policies, personal interactions, and social norms assume that everyone is heterosexual and pressure individuals to conform. I mean, one kind of good example of this is the fact that so much data of the textbook, if you see like for every chapter topic that we go over, Cohen is like, there's not enough data to include lesbian and gay couples in this, right? Like there's, and you don't really, I mean, just in sociology in itself is a good example of it, as open-minded and whatever a sociologist may be, right? When a sociologist goes out in the field and goes to conduct a study about families, are they including a certain type of family? And that's what's interesting about this book, because there was so much data lacking about gay families. So that's just kind of one, right? And then when we do statistics about families, or, you know, are you automatically assuming that we're talking about a heterosexual family? So that's what we mean by compulsory heterosexuality. And that's just one example that I'm saying. Lynn marries someone from his cultural group. What term best applies to this situation? Endogamy, we've already went over this, and this is just referring to laws going against interracial marriage, miscegenation, which a lot of you guys wrote about. Individuals still marry and reproduce within their own racial ethnic group. Right, so endogamy is marrying within your group, exogamy is marrying from without your group. And this also relates to the discussion of mate selection, about how when you choose somebody outside your group versus when you're choosing from somebody inside your group, how does this relate to larger social structures? Which pair of two terms refers to two different social genders? If you want a little bit more time, I encourage you to pause it and try to see how you answer. Women and man. Women and men are the terms we use to refer to gender, whereas female and male are the terms we use for sex. According to recent feminist family theorists, which statement is true? Family types are socially constructed. All right. Family types being biologically determined and rarely changed. That's more of a consensus perspective. What's good for some women is good for all women, more consensus as well. Men and women have very similar experiences of family of life. That is also a consensus point of view of the family. Right? So the consensus point of view is saying that families are biological, and the conflict perspective, which feminist falls under, says that they're socially constructed. Similar to the arguments about gender. Feminist theories feminist theories acknowledge the diversity of family forms and the roles and relationships of individuals within families. Historical and comparative research shows the changes in families over time and the differences that exist from culture to culture and within a single society at a given time. Okay. Jose and Maria came to the United States from Mexico with their parents. They quickly learned English, but their parents struggle with it and want to continue to speak Spanish at home. This is an example of dissonant acculturation. All right. Dissonant acculturation occurs when children learn a dominant language and then integrate into their whole society more quickly than do their parents. If you remember, the consonant acculturation was when they do it at the same time, and then dissonant was when they do it at different times. So that was just from the chapter 3. Again, the form that this question is going to be asked, we don't know. Well, I know, but you don't know. All right, review chapter 7. This question is also reflected in a discussion board post, so I encourage you to go back and look at those answers. Mate selection is necessary for explaining at least 3 ways the family can influence society. What are the 3 ways? So number 1 is you need to define mate selection. And then number 2 is then explaining the family in 3 ways. I'm sorry, I just completely lost my train of thought. All right, so let's see. Let me see if you guys can try to, if you want to pause it, try to see how you answer this on your own. All right, mate selection, the process by which people choose each other for sexual romantic relationships, and then necessary for explaining at least 3 ways the family can influence society. What are the 3 ways? So these are the 3 ways that were listed in the book. Again, this is from your discussion board post number 9. Inequality, inclusion versus exclusion, and family dynamics. So if you want to go back, because it most likely will not be enough to be able to list these, because I mean this is right here in front of your face, and take note of that with your final, because I'm well aware that this is going to be available and probably screenshotted and saved by you guys, right? You're going to have to be able, in your own words, explain this stuff, right? It's not going to be enough to just copy these things down. So just take that note. How will you explain? All right, so these are the 3 ways. You define mate selection, the 3 ways the family can influence society. Give me an example of how mate selection can lead to inequality, which leads to affect society, right? Inclusion versus exclusion, right? Okay, so that's, again, discussion board 9. I encourage you to go back and look at that. All right, what are the central themes of the textbook? And this was also reflected in your discussion board post number 10. What are the central themes? I can't believe how many of you guys got this wrong in the quiz. And that's why I'm I think in my head, oh my God, it's going to be so easy. It was online. And then the amount of people that would just the quiz that got wrong, I was like, all right, never mind. Maybe they'll... Anyway, diversity, inequality, and social change. All right, it's on the cover of your textbook. Yes, okay. Those are the themes. Define institutional arena as defined by Cohen, right? So don't you dare Google it and then give me that. And list the 3 arenas discussed in the textbook. Institutional arena, a social space in which relations between people in common positions are governed by accepted rules of interaction. Family, state, and market. So if you remember the first day of class, when I tried to explain this to you guys, I explained, right, so these are institutional arenas, right? And each of them are their own social space. They are not, although they can be reflected in a physical barrier, right? So family is my home. market is my job, so like the actual DA's office or John Jay College, and then the state is like my physical border of New York or right the United States. But it's more of a social space, right? So even when me and my family leave our house, we're still our family, right? Even when I'm leaving the DA's office, right? Even now I'm working from home and so forth. Right? Even when I leave New York, I'm still a New Yorker. So that's what we mean by a social space, right? Each arena has its own social space. And then social space in which relations between people and common positions. So within here is my social space of my family, which is in our home. We then are in common positions that we're the family members, right? I'm the mom, he's the dad, me and him are a relationship, right? And then we have, just think of it as your family tree. Our common position is, Rodriguez and, everybody else. I'm just putting like my in-laws, so forth, his last name, right? That's our common position. So our social space, and then the Goodfellas. Oh my God, I said Goodfellas because I got a text from pizzeria down the block. That's actually funny. Goodfellas, that's a family arena, right? Market, so forth, right? Common position, cyber analysts, prosecutors, whatever, state citizens, right? And then we are governed by accepted rules of interaction. So within these social spaces, there are different people with different roles, and we fulfill those roles by following certain rules, right? So there are rules that I follow specifically in my family. There are rules that I follow specifically for my job. There are rules that I follow specifically as a New Yorker. And there are times that those overlap and interact with each other. So how does my role as a mom, right, and my common position within this social space of my house, my family, overlaps with my job sometimes because I have to take off work sometimes because my daughter is sick. Or sometimes I have to disregard my daughter or tell her to leave me alone because I'm working. Or sometimes the state, which is the city of New York, will give me some kind of benefit for being in a family, such as an extra $600 in a stimulus check because I have a kid or whatever the hell it was, right? Or sometimes the state can negatively affect my family because I'm gay and they won't let me get married. Therefore, I can't be there on my husband or my girlfriend's bedside, God forbid something. You know what I mean? Like, so this is what we mean by the different ways they interact and different ways they overlap. The state makes sure I don't beat my child. I vote and put people into the powers of the state, right? Why is my hand shaking? So this is what we mean by these. And what I just did, you're going to have to do. But with specifics, not from just your personal life, but from Cohen. And that is what you're going to have to do. Be prepared to do that and do it well with specifics from the book, not just the internet, because I will know. Explain how the overlapping of two arenas reflect one of the themes of the textbook. So, two arenas, one of the themes, okay? Like a long, short answer. Just answer the questions, get straight to the point. No intro or conclusion needed. Can be one big paragraph. Use specifics from the textbook only. So, your short essay, like I said, your short answers are fine just to be like short answers. Like a few sentences. Your essays it's fine. Your essay is good just to be to be like one big paragraph. I'm not gonna be like, where's your tabs? Where's your intro? Right? It's a short essay. Just answer the question. I don't want to hear Cohen made an amazing, like, just, like, Cohen did this, that's awesome. In the long time history of families, just answer the question, define what I'm telling you to define, and give me exactly what I'm asking you for. Okay, there's no word minimum. So fulfilling those sentences that are just like fillers, I can see right through them. And you could try to get away with it in your papers. You won't, but you're definitely not going to get away with it here. Get to the point. Get straight to the point, and just answer the question with specifics from the book. So the way I just got to the point like that and just cutting straight to the chase, that's what I want you guys to do. This is just another discussion board post you can probably look at to, I think this is an answer. And again, everything I'm putting up here are my own words. So, and I think this is an example from a previous student of another year that I taught. But don't you dare try to use these answers the way that they're written here, because oh no, and you'd be plagiarizing and not getting credit on your final. But right, if you remember the last discussion board post 13, I had you guys discuss overlapping institutional arenas and the work. A lot of you guys got. I couldn't believe how many people got this wrong. Right, the way the chapters were compared was that the family, everything, all the work used to take place in the family, and then the market started taking over. So now we have more nannies and, cleaning services, right? So the market took over so many family roles. And that's what we meant with comparing chapter 11 to chapter 12, because then, similar to how the market arena took over the family arena for specific jobs to be done regarding work, the state arena took over certain roles in the family arena when it came to monitoring abuse. So that was basically what, I'm summarizing here for another student who wrote that. And, yeah. And that is just another answer that I put as a thing. I'm not going to put, so this is, again, social capital, the really quick summary of what you are going to be asked about. Social capital, functionalist theories, data on child abuse and neglect cases, the personal family, exchange theory, sexual double standard, work-family conflict, endogamy, cohabitation, gender division of labor, institutional arena, plus the 3 arenas, plus the 3 themes of the book. How do they overlap and interact? Mate selection, the 3 ways they influence society. Gender socialization, gender versus sex, compulsory heterosexuality, feminist theories via the family, dissonant acculturation. And there we go. So this is the last time you will be seeing my face, unless you Zoom with me next week. I don't know how it looks. I can't see myself, but yeah. So I know, like, there's 7 multiple choices, and like those are probably gonna be the easiest for you. But remember, those are only 5 points each. 7, that's 35. So you still have a lot of short answers and things you're going to have to really think about. So it took us about 40 minutes to go through all those questions. So, it's more than enough time to finish an exam that's going to have less questions than what we just went through. So go over this stuff, test yourself, see how you do with short answers, and then we'll try to maybe Zoom on Monday. And then, so you have any questions, and then we'll talk to each other. Until then, if you're not going to join me in Zoom, or if you don't want to Zoom, I won't do it. But then it'll be the last time that I'm seeing you guys, or you're seeing me. I don't really see you, but good luck with everything. I'm teaching next semester sociology of human rights, Tuesdays and Thursdays, same time. So yeah, hope that I'll see you guys again. I hope all you guys are staying healthy. I'm really sorry for anybody who's lost anybody who has not stayed healthy. But good luck on the exam. And again, let's stay in touch. Let me know what you guys think. Questions below, anything you want me to focus on the Zoom meeting. And let me know what you guys think. This is the last time I'm going to be on video. All right, so good luck. Bye.